moderator, speakers, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all on behalf of Dr. Mohammed Al-Waili, the Director General of Trans Research and Advisory. We have gathered tonight for the second Trans-Political Islam e-symposium, which is part of our first annual e-forum on the subject. We are going to organize 3 more symposiums on political Islam as part of this forum. The topic of today's discussion is Muslim Brotherhood and Parallel State, directing the struggle against the nation state. The experts gathered here today will uncover some of the mysteries around the idea of the nation state in the eyes of the Muslim Brotherhood. They will also highlight the initiatives and ideologies behind building a state within a state, what is also called a parallel state, and how certain tools and mechanisms are employed to build it. Our experts will also share the Muslim Brotherhood's road to power and how the group took advantage of the so-called Arab Spring to achieve their objective before failing miserably. On behalf of Trans Research and Advisory, I thank all the panelists, the moderator, and the viewers from around the world who have joined us today to participate in this session. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I give the floor to our moderator of this evening, Mr. Chris Hamill-Stewart.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I want to welcome everyone tuning in from wherever you are in the world to today's event. If you're in the UAE, then it's tonight's event. We have an excellent discussion on hand tonight. What I'm going to do is go through a few quick housekeeping details, and then I'm going to introduce the speakers briefly, and then we'll get on with it. So first of all, 2 of our first speakers will be speaking in French and then Arabic. And so anyone tuning in from home we have a simultaneous English translation. So anyone tuning in from home, when those speakers start, if you look at the bottom right of your Zoom screen, you can click interpretation and select English or French, depending on which translation you want to hear the speakers in. And just remember to mute the original audio when you do that so that you're not hearing 2 at once. As for who we have speaking today, we have an excellent lineup, as I said. First will be Dr. Alexandre Duval. So he's a professor of geopolitics, international relations at IPAG Business School in Paris. He's published plenty of books, of course, on political Islam, extremism, the Arab world, and more. And he's going to be discussing the idea of the nation state in the eyes of the Muslim Brotherhood. Following that, we have Dr. Hoda Maruf, who's a researcher and in political and strategic affairs at Trends Research and Advisory. She has a PhD in political science from Al Narain University in Iraq. She's written a number of books, had various high-profile academic positions, and she's going to be discussing the parallel state and the tools and mechanisms used to build it by the Muslim Brotherhood. Following that, we have Dr. Amr Al-Shabaki, who's an expert at the Egyptian Al-Aram Center for Political and Strategic Studies and is a former member of the Egyptian Parliament. Of course, he's also published a number of books, and you may have come across his work in various European and Middle Eastern newspapers. He's going to be discussing the Brotherhood experience in building a parallel state in Egypt. Following that, we have Dr. Jassim Mohammed, who's the head of the European Center for Counterterrorism and Intelligence Studies based in Germany. He runs the organization's research into extremist groups from the far right to Daesh and Al-Qaeda types of groups. He's also a former diplomat and has roughly 20 years of experience in intelligence and diplomacy. And he's going to be discussing the Muslim Brotherhood's attempt at building a parallel state in Europe. And then finally, we have Professor Dr. Martin Leiner, who's the founder and director of the Jena Center for Reconciliation Studies in Jena, Germany. He also chairs he's a chair on his university's Systematic Theology and Ethics, and in the Department of Theology, and he's also on the university's ethics board. And he's going to be discussing the turbulence caused by the Arab Spring and how the Muslim Brotherhood used that to impose a parallel state. This discussion is really important at the moment. I'm sure I don't need to remind anyone that there's a pandemic happening. And we've seen in the past during the Arab Spring and in disruptions since then that groups like the Muslim Brotherhood have always tried to use disruptions to push their own agenda. This is perhaps the greatest disruption for a very long time, and so it will come as no surprise to people to hear that the Muslim Brotherhood has been trying to capitalize on it. And that's why it's so important that we remain focused on their activity. So I'm not going to talk for too much longer. I'm going to introduce Dr. Alexander Duval, and Dr. Alexander, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Welcome to everybody. Good evening.
The movement of Muslim Brotherhood was founded in 1928, as everybody knows, by Hassan al-Banna, and I'm going to tackle the notion of the nation state. Or do the Muslim Brotherhood see the nation state as we see it in the normal nation state? The answer is, of course, no, and we are going to see why. And as was minded by the Central Society of Muslim Brotherhood in the Arab Spring, we should remember that the objective number one of the movement of Hassan al-Banna was the education of the youngsters. He was smart and he wanted to involve the youngsters in the traditions of Islam and to spread the call to Islam, the Salafist call to Islam, and also to have on the head of the world a Salafist Islam, and that will have an international and universal dimension in the world that will be according to Sharia, and this would be through constructing them and building a caliphate in the world and destructing the modern state. So for them, Islam cannot accept the modern state and the nation state. So the movement of the Muslim Brotherhood was not able to implement this objective, and he had to deconstruct and to destroy the principles of the nation state.
The aim is to establish a worldwide caliphate, of course, and everybody knows here on the board, and the way is to do it step by step by hiding the real final purpose, but everybody knows that the real final purpose is a worldwide caliphate. And like the leftist and the radical leftist and some ecologists, radical Muslim Brotherhood Islamists, they share a hatred against nation. Nation is something absolutely bad if it's not the ummah. The only nation accepted is a worldwide ummah, and they absolutely reject any kind of ethnic, historical, traditional, even tribe, every kind of identity based in something that is not abstract and universal, like something religious, something that is not only a religious identity, is absolutely banned. And it's very important to understand this, because it's the reason why everywhere they settle Muslim Brotherhood, they fight nationalism, patriotism, and state nation, because a state nation cannot be based on identity, a local identity, but only on the doctrine of caliphate. Then we can say that the vision of Muslim Brotherhood, it's completely opposite. They absolutely hate nationalism and nationalist and state nation. And the writing of Mr. Hassan al-Banna is very clear on this, and we will see why. And but we can also say that the way to ban state nation, of course, many times it's based on manipulation. Muslim Brotherhood, they don't dare to say directly they are anti-state nation or anti-nation, because of course they could lose some support. Then they prefer to make believe that the nationalists they fight are anti-Muslims, betrayers, enemies of Muslims, apostate, false Muslims. They ban by a manipulation strategy, but they always target state nationalists. Then the state nation is absolutely something banned. Above all, they hate watan, el-watan, the word el-watan is absolutely evil, and they compare with Jahiliyyah the Arab nationalism, Arab nationalist and Arab state nation based on Arab tradition. They think it's Jahiliyyah. And everybody knows, of course, what is Jahiliyyah. And in Lebanon, a famous writer said also it was in Iziliyah. And they accuse nationalists to separate the Ummah. And the Ummah, of course, it's something positive for Muslims, but according to them, the Ummah must lead to a caliphate that will destroy nation. Even in Turkey, the Milli Görüş organization doesn't mean nation. It's badly translated because Milli, it's more a concept of community and religious community, but not ethnic community. And until Erdogan, nationalists and Islamists were enemies in Turkey. The genius of Erdogan is to make believe he's friend of nationalists because he needs them for the moment in order to rebuild his imperialist neo-Ottoman Turkey. Then let's see now the project of Tamkin. The Tamkin, the planetary Tamkin, is the global project of Muslim Brotherhood, and it consists of in reestablishing the caliphate step by step. Recently, Mr. El-Qardawi mentioned, it's strange, but directly, he mentioned Mr. Recep Tayyip Erdogan as a possible new Khalif, a new Caliph. Then it's very interesting to see that Muslim Brotherhood, everybody knows they want to replace nation state by a caliphate, but they recently even began to say who could be a future Caliph able to reestablish a kind of Ottoman and Umayyad, a mix of Umayyad and Ottoman Empire. That would be led in the first step by a Turk, but why not after that by an Arab? I wanted to show this little only slide I wanted to show. Do you see the slide? I don't know if you see my slide. Partager l'écran. I put share. Now you will see. Do you see now?
Not yet.
Do you see now? It will be very short.
No.
Do you see it?
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. On the first step. I know you know everything of that because you are expert. But in France, in Italy, my two countries, and even in Spain, in England, and everywhere, they want to brainwash youth to make believe that if they integrate to our state nation, they are betrayed in Islam. And in order to reach this step that consists in banning the fact of loving his nation, his state nation, they began to brainwash the individual, the house, the Muslim people, the government, in order to reach on other step, caliphate, conquest on the West, and planetary final caliphate, Takmin. Then they begin at the beginning with individuals, schools, houses, families, and it's a very clever strategy because some days ago a professor was slaughtered in Paris, and you know why? Because before a Chechen jihadist did it, during many days, Muslim Brotherhood organization targeted this professor as an enemy of Islam in order to brainwash people against him because he was a representative of a secular traditional French nation state. Then the strategy is very clever. I call it the paranoization strategy, a strategy that consists in making believe that a state nation like France, Italy, England, even America, the Council of American Islamic Relations, this is a Muslim Brotherhood lobby in America, they do the same. They make believe that American nationalism and state nation is necessary against Muslims. They want to brainwash all the Muslims to make them believe that we are all enemies. It's a quite clever strategy because we see the result in France. The result is absolutely fantastic. In less than 30 years, they made being much more fanatized the youth than the fathers. We have many polls on it. The youth is more and more against state nation. They target French and French state nation and European state nations as enemy of Islam, and they make believe many son of immigrants that the only way to be proud and not humiliated is to reject state French nationalism. But it's the same even in other countries like Italy that is less secular. Then you will tell me when I must finish. I will just mention an important sentence of Mr. Hassan Banna in Dawatuna, that of course, if you are expert, you know this, but I don't see my screen. I don't know why. I must move something. Okay, I will see now. Do you see? Yes, you see. In Dawatuna, Mr. Hassan El-Banna said something very clear, that nationalists even in the Islamic world, even Muslim, even nationalists in Muslim world are they make a horrible scene, a division scene, and he said they make only chaos, division, tensions inside Islam. They are the cause of all the problem of Muslims because they are patriots and they want to divide the Ummah. It's written clearly in his famous Da'watuna. And he compares Wataniya, the patriotism, as something that is anti-Muslim, and he opposed the worldwide Islamic Brotherhood. And he says, but I cannot translate very good, the Muslim consider that any little piece of the earth where a Muslim Brotherhood settle his fate in the religion of the Quran is the only real nation, and it's the entire earth that is his nation. But I will not translate, it will be too long, but you can check. I will let my copy. You can see many also other part of this Dawatuna when he say that the caliphate is the only body that can be accepted, and because it can gather all Muslim in one nation. Then I will conclude now by something very important. Why we face Turkish enemies now in Europe, but also in Arab countries. We have the same new imperialist totalitarian enemy, because at the beginning the two issues were already linked. When Muslim Brotherhood wanted to reestablish this caliphate, as written in Hassan al-Banna main key text, it was just 4 years after the abolishment of caliphate and sultanate by Atatürk. And Atatürk was compared as a bad believer, a betrayer, an apostate. Then since Atatürk, there is a close link between the existence or the abolishment of Ottoman last caliphate empire and Muslim Brotherhood agenda. And it's the reason why now Turkey is the new leader, even though Erdogan was not educated inside the classic Muslim Brotherhood, but why now is their hero. Qardawi would like him to be the caliph because he wants to have a revenge against the Kemalist, Atatürkish Kemalists that were patriots. The main thing that Mr. Erdogan hates with Kemalists is that Kemalists, they are nation state patriots, nationalists. They want Turkey for Turks, and they are Turkish nationalists. He accepts nationalists only if nationalists help him to reestablish the caliphate. Then, since the creation of Muslim Brotherhood, we can conclude that Muslim Brotherhood, as well as Nazi and communist, they are against state nation. They are essentially and it's not a judgment to blame, it's just an observation. The main totalitarianism, red, brown, and greens, Nazism, was against free nation. They invaded nation. They wanted to build an empire. Communists wanted to build another empire by destroying the state nation. And the same for Muslim Brotherhood, but also for the jihadists that also come from Muslim Brotherhood background. And you can mention also, you know, after the Arab Spring, the first thing that said the leader of Tunisia after Ennahda being elected, very strangely, what did he say in a speech? Hamadi Jebali, the first main speech he made was, we will reestablish the sixth caliphate. And of course, Tunisians were shocked, and it's why after they had to compose and to reduce their and to hide more their agenda. Thank you. I hope I was not too long.
Not at all, not at all. Thank you very much. It's interesting that you note the irony in Erdogan's movement, where he uses these nationalist, fiercely nationalist.
What did you say?
It's interesting that you note the irony in Erdogan's movement, where he uses the nationalist sentiment in Turkey for in pursuit of an ideal that is.
But we could say the same thing in Iran. I studied a little bit Khomeini's strategy. Khomeini was a follower of Sayyid Qutb, but also Hassan al-Banna, and the influence of anti-nationalism of Muslim Brotherhood in Iran was very important. Khomeini, the first thing he did, there is a strange noise. Okay. The first thing that did Khomeini when he took the power was to ban Iranian old nationalism. Very interesting. Even he tried to ban the names and the Iranian traditions. He was influenced by anti-patriotism from Hassan al-Banna and Sayyid Qutb.
Brilliant, thank you. If Dr. Val, if you wouldn't mind stopping sharing your screen now that you're...
Yes, sorry. Yes.
Brilliant, thank you. We've had a slight change to the schedule, but we're going to be moving to Dr. Amr al-Shabaki. As I said, he's an expert on Egyptian policy and strategy, and he was a member of the Egyptian parliament. So Dr. al-Shabaki, if you could take it away.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I was very happy with the French of Mr. Alexander, but he didn't.
Dr. Shabaki, looks like we're having a little bit.
Hear.
Yeah.
You don't hear?
There is an echo.
Yes.
I'm currently not hearing anything from Dr. al-Shabaki.
I will try again. 1 second.
Okay.
Looks
Dr. Amr, do you hear us?
Did you hear me now?
Looks like it looks like we're having a little bit of technical issues on Dr. al-Shabaki's stream. Perhaps Dr. Deval, if you could explain a little more about how Turkey is pursuing these Muslim Brotherhood goals while we wait for Dr. al-Shabaki to sort out his audio.
Okay, yes, you can interrupt me when you want. Yes, Erdogan, we must understand that Erdogan, it's false that it's false when people say that the Muslim Brotherhood. At the beginning, he comes from Milli Görüş, that is very close, but it's a typically Turkish Islamist movement with a Turkish Ottoman agenda. It's a mix of Ottomanism and Muslim Brotherhood, but it's specific. But he's very clever. He used Fethullah Gulen movement to get to the power, and Sufi big Brotherhood like Naqshbandiya, Sulaymanjiya. But when he didn't need anymore Fethullah Gulen, he replaced them with Muslim Brotherhood, and the more he was fighting first friends like conservative and Fethullah Gulen, the more he began to be closer to Muslim Brotherhood, but there is a strange noise when I speak. I don't know. He is more and more openly the new godfather of Muslim Brotherhood. Why? Because the strategy quite clever. He knows that Arab and Turks are not the same. He knows that many Arabs still remember the Turkish colonization. He knows that many Arab nationalists don't want to be submitted to a new Turkish Ottoman Empire. And like Iran, they use Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas movement, and Palestinian issue to please to Arabs. The strategy consists in becoming the hero of Muslim Brotherhood, and the heart of Muslim Brotherhood is Hamas Palestinian movement. Then by defending Palestinians against Israelis, by defending Hamas and even Islamic Jihad and other Palestinian terrorist organization, he wants to make believe that he is more pro-Palestinian even than Arab themselves. And it allows him to accuse Arabs to betray Palestinian. It's very clever.
Right.
When he says, I am Hamas, he says, but you Arabs from the Arab League, you are for the Palestinian Authority. And the Palestinian Authority, they are betrayers. They are submitted to Israelis, while Jihad Islamic and Hamas are real Arab fighters against Jews. It's one of the reasons he is very close to Muslim Brotherhood, because he wants to seduce Arab arts. And he succeeded. When I go to Maghreb, many Tunisians, many Algerians that are getting more and more Muslim Brotherhood, they love Mr. Erdogan, and they forgot that he doesn't want to help Arabs. He wants to reestablish a caliphate and a sultanate in order to dominate Arabs, because according to Erdogan, Arabs are a former colony.
Right.
If you prefer, the reason why he is Muslim Brotherhood nice supporter is to hide his agenda to colonize Arabs.
Okay.
By making believe he's just a caliphate.
Brilliant, thank you. I think what we're gonna do is move to Dr. Jassim Mohammed, because Dr. Al-Shabaki is still having technical problems. Just as a reminder, Dr. Jassim Mohammed is the head of the European Centre for Counterterrorism and Intelligence Studies, and he conducts research into all extremist organizations, from the far right to Daesh and everything in between. So if Dr. Mohammed, if you could take the floor. It looks like you may still be muted there. If you just unmute yourself. If you click in the bottom left on the...
Yes, you must click the microphone.
Yes, right.
There we go, brilliant.
Yes, okay. Thank you very much. It's my honor and my pleasure to join this event. So thank you very much. The title or the topics is how does the brother Muslimhood create parallel society in Europe? Actually, it's the network. How does it work from inside Europe almost? So regarding MP, Muslim Brotherhood, Europe represent the safe haven for Muslim Brotherhood, which successfully established a network of relationship of different nationalities in Europe, which overlapped with the political marriage, person relation, and complied by plan and goal. The social marriage, I mean, that we have here in Germany, for example, two families, the Turkish family, Muslim Brotherhood, and we have also a Muslim Brotherhood Arabic. Thus, there is a social connection and even marriage connection between those family. So they create like a double wheel or four wheel for the Muslim Brotherhood. So there is a family connection between the two families, the Turkish and also...
Yeah, because they are not letting you use the camera. You look the wrong link.
Yeah. Qatar, of course, it was finance, the Muslim Brotherhood here in Germany.
This is the wrong link, Professor. Wait, I tell him. Now, this is the link for people who want to watch.
If everyone could just make sure they're staying muted while there's speakers talking, please. So mute yourself in the bottom left.
Should I continue?
Yes, please do, yeah.
So, and our center here in Germany, we recognize how much Turkey government and also Qatar government involved to finance the MB group here. And mostly Erdogan, he paid many visits to Europe, mostly in Germany. And there is, we could say that Turkey association maybe control more than 100 mosques and culture center here in Germany. So we could say that Turkey Muslim Brotherhood control a lot of mosques, mostly in Germany. But of course, the Muslim Brotherhood's Arab in another European country, for example, France, United Kingdom, also they are very powerful, mostly in Britain. And I believe that it is well known that there is a criticism to United Kingdom, how much they offer the MB much freedom of work. And I believe it's a very bad policy by the United Kingdom, since they haven't decided to put the Muslim Brotherhood on the blacklist. So we are here in Europe and in Germany. We recognize some important actually centers, mosques, culture center, that the MB active behind those name. And the most important is Islamic group in Germany, abbreviation GID. This found in 1958. It is the German branch of the Muslim Brotherhood in Europe. So this association, Islam group in Germany, it is found all over Europe. And it is founded by Saeed Ramadan in 1958. He is Egyptian, but right now I believe that Ibrahim Zayat, he is the one who control or manage this association. The second one, we have the League of Muslim in Belgium, abbreviation LMB, the historical front of MB in Belgium, founded in 1997. And it is control about 7 mosques and has many headquarters in several cities here in Belgium and in Brussels also, Anvers, Grant, and other cities. We have also Association of the Muslim Community in Netherlands, which was founded in Hague by Yahya Boufaya in 1996. This association is organized as the Europe Trust Netherlands. This is the name. And then we have also the Netherlands Institute of Human Science and Islamic Relief. Islamic Relief, it is well known all around the Europe that it is belonged and controlled and managed by the MB. We have also the most association in Britain, Muslim Association of Britain, MAB. The front of MAB was established by Kamal Halbawi in 1997. Right now, Mr. Halbawi, he is out of this network, of course, has reminded that representative of MB in Europe for a long time. We have in Italy, Union of Italy Islam Organization and Community. abbreviation UCOII is also the official representative of the member of Muslim Brotherhood in Italy. We have the most important things, or maybe the most important question: how does the Brotherhood create parallel society in Europe? Of course, here in Europe, it is well known that they have a double stance. So when they talk about the democracy in front of some example, German institute or German parliament, German government, it is different from their discussion and their talk when they talk in our region. So they are very hardliner, they are very tough, and of course they don't hide that they are targeting or they aim to establish the Islamic Caliphate. But here in Germany and in Europe, of course, they have double standards. They don't show this one. But I believe that the Interior Ministry, mostly the domestic intelligence here in Germany, they publish very much detail about the activity of Muslim Brotherhood since 1914. They say that they are working seriously, Muslim Brotherhood, working seriously to establish their society, a closed society, and that considered as a risk to the democracy regime in Germany and Europe. Since 1914, up now, every year that there is a report by the local or domestic interior ministry or intelligence, they show the network of MEB and discuss in Parliament. And actually, the member of Parliament, they put much pressure on the government and intelligence to show the risk, how much risk of their policy, of their activity in Germany and of course in Europe. Because till now, the Muslim Brotherhood, unfortunately, also they are out of a blacklist, in spite that there are much criticism and much calls to put them on the blacklist. So we could say that Muslim Brotherhood penetrated into Western society through the double stance as a terrorist slogan, calling for democracy and peaceful coexisting among the sect of society, while in Arab and Islam countries speak to society as a revolutionary or as a hardliner. They established network of society ties through marriage between its member to establish commercial is very important, economy, relation, adapting environment for their network. There is also on the ground, we found that the attracting immigrant, how much they attract immigrant to those countries, they call for immigration and they support immigration to West country. It is one of their target, one of their aim. So it is one of their step also to get more supporter from our region or from the Middle East region to Europe. So the ideology regarding the network, the party, everybody, they say, if they have really party or there is a system of party of working network. Unfortunately, till now, the German intelligence, they say that Muslim Brotherhood, till now, they don't adopt as a party system inside, but they adopt ideology to protect themselves. This is one of the result of the intelligence service by German. Regarding the one of the way how they work, they held conference in Europe. And I believe that in Paris, Paris shows many event, many form for this event. The form of Union of Islam Organization, UOIF, it is the front of MB in France. The form of the Union of Islam Organization, the front of the member Muslim Brotherhood, is held annually and attracts about 170,000 visitors. So this event is annually held in France, and more than 170,000 visitors, political, religious, are organized this form. This is really as annually traditionally by the Muslim Brotherhood. Union is an Islamic organization in France designated as a terrorist group. Manuel Valls, the former French Prime Minister, warned of the Salafi who have taken the union as a pretext to influence the youth in the slums. In July 2017, some leader of Muslim Brotherhood held meeting group camp in Turkey capital Ankara. The meeting brought together Mohammed Hussein, Secretary General of Muslim Brotherhood, and Mohammed Hikmet Walid, Comptroller General of Syrian Muslim Brotherhood, and other Muslim Brotherhood leader to discuss how to deport MEB member from Qatar to Turkey. Sources said that the meeting saw emphasis on the start of the deporting plan of those members. So I will not talk much. The last point, if you allowed me, is the classification of Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist group or put on a blacklist or embargo. The West has three reasons to ban Muslim Brotherhood. The first, they are the main sources of extremist ideology used by terrorist groups. Many of top of Qaeda leader, particularly Ayman al-Zawahiri, originally he is from Muslim Brotherhood. Third, the history of Muslim Brotherhood is full of violence, terrorism, and political assassination, and recently anti-state operation in Egypt. So I believe that right now, Europe, mostly Britain, I believe they need to take the decision to show the risk of Muslim Brotherhood network in the society. And of course, maybe the European Federation also should take also a further step. I believe that European right now, they are suffering from terror and radicalization. And we see that every day there is some terror operation. Last one, it was in France. So I believe that European, they should take also a very good policy to counter, to combat terror, including the political Islamist like Muslim Brotherhood. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry, maybe I took much of time. Thank you.
Not at all, not a problem at all. Thank you very much. I'm sure we'll come back to the Muslim Brotherhood in Europe later when we have questions. But thank you very much for your talk. We're going to move now to Dr. Martin Leiner. Hi there.
Now, I wanted to talk to you about the turbulence of the Arab Spring and Brotherhood's attempts to impose a parallel state. This is my topic, and I would like to discuss this first of all about some introduction and definition. So I will focus on Egypt in my presentation, and I want to talk about the developments since 2011, since the Arab Spring, not the periods before, but 2011 to 2013 it will be the main period I will focus on. And the reading I want to present will be based on a philosophical distinction in political philosophy between a kind of power one, power as domination, repression, in German Herrschaft, Domination en français, which is more the tradition of Max Weber or Carl Schmitt. Here the definition of power is that you can get obedience for any things you order. You order something, and if you have the power, you can really achieve that the others obey. And the other thing is a power. Second definition is power.
Sorry, you must speak closer because when you go out, we don't hear.
I'm already speaking quite loud, but okay, I will. Thank you for.
When you move, we don't hear. Sorry.
Thank you very much. So the second form of power, which links power to possibility, potentia in Latin, that means that you create possibilities together, having and using possibility together. You have more power if you have more possibilities together. And this is a notion of power which is, for example, developed by Hannah Arendt or by Paul Ricoeur, talking about pouvoir en commun. You can do something together. And normally in a state you have both. You have this domination to really to restrict things, but you have also this possibility to do things together. And normally this possibilities to do things together should be the normal life, and this what is happening in cooperation together. And domination is more for an extreme situation where you need really to stop violence, to stop uprising, to stop people from doing criminal things and so on. Or in war, you have also this power one situation. And my thesis is that the Arab Spring inspired the hope of having more possibility of acting together. This power two type and less domination repression. This was this hope of a democratization and an opening up of the society. And the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt profited from this hope, but in the end misread and limited it. Together with increasing violent opposition against Muslim Brotherhood from the military on one side and also from the civil society and the more secular elites, those misreadings led to a return to power as domination type of power in the end, and to a destruction of the parallel state of Brotherhood the Brotherhood had attempted to impose by an even more type 1 type of government we have now with the government we have in Egypt. So this is the argument, and now more for details. So it's about the Arab Spring 2011, then the election of Morsi 2012, and the military coup in 2013. So what is a parallel state? This term was developed by the American political scientist Robert Paxton, who is an expert on French fascism, on the Vichy regime. And he had the meaning that fascist systems and communists as well have a tendency to replicate functions of the official state which play their roles. So there are organizations who are a kind of parallel police, for example. Organizations who have a parallel structure for education, for social system, and who replicate this through the party. For example, the Communist Party, or you have organizations like the SS in the Nazi times who is replicating this. Normally, this is something for a group which is in government, but which has not yet replaced the old elites and the old bureaucracy and the old functioning powers in the military and otherwhere. So they try to get a parallel state which can take over and gains more and more power to replace those elites which you cannot remove at once and with one move. So in law as well as in all parts of state functions. And but for Paxton, it's clear that used a parallel state for a partisan government. But after him, for example, by President Erdogan, who criticized the Gülen movement, this term was used now also for opposition movements who try to fulfill state functions and to do something like a parallel state from not top down, but from the society or from their group. This is in fact also what the Brotherhood built up since decades in Egypt, since a long time, to have a parallel system, they said, which is not so corrupt as a state and which is more Islamic. And but it's also a problem where begins normal, where ends a normal civil society organization and where begins a parallel state. Because also in every organization you have, for example, a president, you create some legal obligations by your rules, you have an economical functioning and so on. So where starts a parallel state? And I think it has to do with this size and with the goals. If it's a big organization and if it's a goal really to replace the state, you have a parallel state. And in this paper, I use parallel state as an organization not mentioned in the constitution, but replicating an important set of elements of government with a goal to support a government even against the civil servants of the state, the administration, the police, military, education, healthcare, social assistance, finances, and law. And this was the situation also in Egypt, that there was a developed parallel organization who had to struggle with the organization still in power, which came from the old Mubarak administration times. So in Brotherhood in Egypt had an institution, especially in education, in social assistance, in law with the Sharia. And it was even partly supported and accepted by the government already in Sadat times. He made a new constitution in 1971, where in Article 2 is said the goal of the entire legal system is to place Sharia in the highest law above all law. And they were always fighting. For example, the murder of al-Maghoub, maybe also because he fought against this Sharia function in Egyptian court. So it was already some parallel structure, even somehow acknowledged in former times, especially in Sadat times. And after Morsi's election, the old elite, the military and others still in power, were still in power and not much willing to work with this Morsi government. They did it to a certain extent, but they did not want this kind of Islamic change and revolution. And especially, of course, the Supreme Council of Armed Forces, the SCAF, they were very critical, and they were just founded during the Arab Spring, and then they had also a kind of parallel state already they could build up in the Egyptian society, and because the military also formed with their universities, with its military power, with its military court system, where a lot of the law system was working. This all together was also already a kind of parallel state, and building on this other parallel state, they could easily, because they had much more support and much more also the use of violence in their hand, they could quite easily remove the Morsi government. And what they did in the end was this, that Assisi took power. Now, some reflections on this. What is meant directly by the failure of the Brotherhood? I think the Brotherhood started quite strategically when he stayed a bit behind the scene during the Arab Spring in the first months of 2011. But when they came out, especially in the huge manifestations end of July, where they really showed that they want a kind of Islamic state, it was much more difficult. So first they had a relatively respected role, why so many people voted for them. And they spoke out for democracy, for less corruption and other things. So it was relatively strategically good, but they failed in creating a coalition with the revolution and to make compromises in order to remove the old elites. And the old elites were still there, and therefore those old elites in military, bureaucracy and economy, although they made not peace with them and connected somehow with them and tried more and more to impose parallel structures and their structures to fight the structures of the state. And this led in the end to the failure of the Brotherhood as a democratic or possibly democratic rule. But what could have been done? Egypt is a country that's very difficult to rule because power as domination functions quite well, as long as you have the factors of power behind you, like the military, the police, administration, the public opinion. But this means more or less to impose a point of view, and this point of view is either more secularist or more religious. And this is a dilemma behind the Egyptian policies. Go towards globalization and modernity, or Islam seen as a homogeneous, quite traditional society, as the Brotherhood advocates it. So President Nasser and Sadat tried already to mix repression with some compromises with the Brotherhood. But this also did not really succeed. For example, in the book of Jürgensmeyer, Professor Ibrahim said to him, everybody was in the end against Sadat, maybe because precisely he tried to please everybody. So there is so much tension in the society. Or Morsi changed his discourse before the second round of elections in Egypt and claimed to be a president for all Egyptians. He paused even functions and membership in the Brotherhood. And again in 2015, Al-Sisi said, we are all Egyptians. So they try to connect. There are attempts from different political camps to make something like a stronger coherence in the society. But the society is in a kind of intractable conflict, modern versus religious in Egypt. There has been a violent history of repression of Brotherhood, and is still now, also after Morsi. And there's also violent radical groups in the Muslim Brotherhood built on ideologies such as Farage or Qutb, which are very violent and radical. So it's a kind of violent habitus of dealing with conflicts. And we have a typical intractable conflict with high level of mistrust, low level of communication, cooperation and compromise, and high security costs in Egyptian society. And therefore, I think we should go towards a reconciliation approach to create good relationships between the different groups in the Egyptian society and to integrate people and to overcome intolerance and a culture of violence. So we need reconciliation as a creation of better relationship. We need theological reflections, how to show ways how to be a Muslim and to live in a state with secular people together. And with about 10 million or 10% Christians, which are there, and you have to deal with them and cannot attack them. And how to engage positively also with globalization. So we need more power as capacity to do things together and less domination. But also without hoping that it will be easy or that power as domination will not be necessary anymore. We need also power as domination and even repression of violence, also violent groups, also in some part of the Brotherhood. But nevertheless, we need a new way towards respect and understanding of each other and to do things together. So this would be my proposition, what could be done. I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Leiner. I'm conscious that we're running slightly behind schedule and we still have 2 speakers to go. So I'm going to move quickly on if that works for everyone. And we're going to move on to Dr. Al-Shabaki now, who I believe is going to be speaking in English.
Yes.
Brilliant. We hear you. Great.
Yes. Hello.
Nice.
Did you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Now, it was, I imagine it was either by laptop, but by mobile phone, it's that's strange. Thank you for the kind invitation. I will express myself in English. I was very happy with Mr. Alexander when he started to speak in French. Mais anyway, je suis comme lui francophone, mais I do my best to express myself in English. The title of my intervention, it's about the roots of the ideology of Muslim Brotherhood. I try to, and I sent already a draft. So I try to understand what happened in Egypt under Morsi era when the Muslim Brotherhood arrived in power through the roots of the ideology of the Muslim Brotherhood. So for this reason, my paper divided in 2 main parties. The first one talk about this ideology, and the second party what happened in Egypt after the arrival of power of Muslim Brotherhood. I think concerning the first party, how did the Muslim Brotherhood construct their ideology or the shuffle between the preaching and politics? And I think this is the main problem when we start the creation of their movement in 2008. This shuffle between the preaching and political, and also the question of social and education. And the Muslim Brotherhood has built a complex organization structure, complex organizational structure that can be at several level, and that's important to understand what happens, the complexity organizational structure in the Muslim Brotherhood, and that's something unique if we compare the Muslim Brotherhood with other religious or political organizations. One organization, the Muslim Brotherhood construct 4 structure organizational level. The first one, to recruit a new member, you have 4 levels to be a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. The first one called general membership. And membership, this is the people who has a sympathy with the Muslim Brotherhood, and this brother, between brackets, called assistant brother or akh muntasib. The second level, it's brother membership. and this brother, it's affiliated brother, أخ منتسب. It's called أخ منتسب, and he's became closer to the organization, and he has a possibility to move under the name of the Muslim Brotherhood, but he not yet became what we called the working membership. That's the third level. The third level, who his name is a working brotherhood, and the working brotherhood, he's a full membership. He pay a quotation, and for this reason, we have a lot of discussion in Egypt about the real number of the Muslim Brotherhood. Somebody sometimes say it's 2 million. Not true. Yes, if we can account the sympathy of the Muslim Brotherhood, what they called assistant brother, أخ مساعد, he's not really a real member. Yes, we can talk about maybe 1 million less or more, but the working brother, the real working membership, it's never less than 100,000 membership. It's around 70, 80,000 people member working brother or full membership in the Muslim Brotherhood.
And what is the name in Arabic?
أخ عامل.
عامل. Okay.
Oui, voilà. The fourth one, this it's very important. When Hassan al-Banna, that's what I did in my paper, that all my reference from the Muslim Brotherhood thinker or Hassan himself to understand exactly what happened. So the fourth one, it's called jihadi membership, and the Hassan al-Banna is clearly this level. He talks about that the organization has 3 levels, and after indirectly he said he's a people who created the secret organization, التنظيم الخاص, the secret organization of the Muslim Brotherhood. It's mean clearly violent group. They prepare these members to be violent, to make a terrorist attack, but it was indirect, it was implicit, not really clear. And when I return to Abdel Halim Mahmoud, it's not Abdel Halim Mahmoud, the Sheikh al-Azhar. He's one of the leader of the Muslim Brotherhood. He wrote in his famous, it's a 4-volume, I have here in my bibliothèque, my library. He's about the رؤية من الداخل, the interior vision for the Muslim Brotherhood. It's a very important book, and about the private or the secret or private organization. This is some topics, what they mean, the member of the private, what he can do, what's the obligatory of the member of the private organization. And here in the book, weapon training, it's written clearly, the member of the secret organization must learn Quran, obey the order of his leader, and everything, and weapon training. It was written in the literature, and it was clear that it's a part of the secret organization. So to conclude this, we have as a significant Muslim Brotherhood, it's not one level. When they recruit somebody, it was not like a political party or through platform or a political program or political platform. No, you must stay as an assistant member, and few years you became working before affiliated brother, and the third step, it's working brother. And finally, we can prepare you if your leader believes that you are able to make a violence, to pratique la violence, you became member in jihadi as a jihadi membership. So to understand what happened in Egypt and in the other country, we must, I think, understand the complexity of structure, organizational structure of the Muslim Brotherhood. It's not one structure, it's multiple, it's and also has a violent aisle or a group prepared to make a violence. So this issue with this kind of organization, the Muslim Brotherhood arrived in power in Egypt, sure, through elections, but not as a political party. And that's something we must understand it. Who is arrived in power in Egypt, it's secret, and this organization, even like Nahda in Tunis, not like PJD in Morocco, not even like Turkish party. No, it was a clear, that's like maybe Taliban, maybe like Hamas. It was I was member in the committee of who write the constitution in Egypt, the last one, the civil one, and we insist to put it's allowed to accept a organization in the political sphere. For this reason, what happened in Egypt, it was not a political party arrive, not political Islamic party arrive in power. It was a religious organization. They didn't accept, they refused the Muslim Brotherhood to legalize their movement. When I was in this time MP in the parliament, and the majority was a Muslim Brotherhood, and I try with many colleagues to ask them to legalize this movement as a NGOs, as an association, or as a political party completely separated from the religious association. That's something we must understand, it, that the Muslim Brotherhood stay in power 1 year, and they refuse to legalize their movement. And that's something strange, because under Mubarak, when we discussed with them, they told us no, the regime and Mubarak never accept that the Muslim Brotherhood. If we try to create a party, they refuse also. But when they take the majority in the parliament, and after they win in the elections as a presidential, they refuse to legalize their movement. So that's the first issue. The second issue, I don't think it's possible in any democratic country or any country try to start a democratic transitions to accept a religious party as a part of the political sphere. We have already difficulty with the political party has a reference, Islamic reference. We have a difficulty with the Nahda, with the Turkish party, with the PJD or Morocco. But you imagine if it's this organization, it's completely religious organization created what they called as الزراع السياسي, main man, political man or something like that. It's party integral, partie integral of the organization. It was really something in a country like Egypt, when the people, the Egyptian, some of the Egyptian people voted for Morsi. Alhamdulillah, I didn't vote for him. But anyway, when part of the Egyptian people vote for him, they imagine that he became a president like my colleague from Germany for all the Egyptian or something like that. Few months we discover that the president, the Pharaoh in Egypt, he didn't decide anything, because you have this structure, what I mentioned before, the Le Bureau de l'Orientation, Maktab al-Irshad, who decide everything for the president. We have Khairat al-Shatir, we have all the leader of the Muslim Brotherhood decide to the president to do this, to not do that, and something like that. And that it was a catastrophic for sure for the country. So this is the second issue. So they refuse, the first one, they refuse to legalize the organization as a NGO, as association, according to the law of state. And they refused to separate their political party from the organization. It was integral party for the organization. I mean, the party really doesn't exist. Who decide everything? It's the organization of the Muslim Brotherhood, and not really a political sphere. Sure, the constitution, that's, we must also know that constitution was written in 2000 through the majority of the Muslim Brotherhood, has 3 clear articles. I can after send you by email 3 clear articles open the route to create a religious state in Egypt. It was one of them created a religious association to control la morale, al-akhlaq, and values of les valeurs of the society. Can arrest somebody to ask him, you are with your wife or not? That's, and you 3-4 articles open the route, ouvre la chemin to create a religious state. So that's also, it was something catastrophe. The fourth one, the Muslim Brotherhood, we analyze as a political and researcher expert in this. Yes, maybe we have some organization in Egypt, and like Al Jihad, it was a violent, and Jama'ah Islamiyya. Jihad assassinated Sadat. Jihad, it was created en phalange, impacté by Sayyid Qutb doctrine, and he became more radical. Had make a auto critique, make what we called in English re-evaluation of his experience, and they published Jihad and Jama'ah Islamiyya in '97. Many books to say we stopped the violence. It was a mistake. We make a lot of mistakes. Even the radical or the violence or the terrorist organization make this autocritique or criticize their experience, and they publish a book. It was by Al Jihad, by example, 7 famous books said, yes, we stopped the violence, and Jama'ah Islamiyya the same. For the Muslim Brotherhood, starting 28 until now, they never said we committed a mistakes, or we has a problem, or we need to re-evaluation of its thinking or our mistakes. Never happened. Muslim Brotherhood, I talked about the member of the Muslim Brotherhood. Everybody less the Muslim Brotherhood, new man, but as I talk about the Muslim Brotherhood as an organization. Sometimes we consider as a sect, close, never make any criticize their experience. You said, yes, we make a mistake with in this time, and also if the Muslim Brotherhood not happy with the current regime in Egypt, yes, maybe we can understand, but why they were problem with Mubarak, Sadat, Nasser, and even the monarchy. Even the monarch in Egypt, you remember the member of secret organization assassinated the premier minister in Egypt in 49, Nokrashi Basha, 49, 48, sorry, and 49 Hassan al-Banna was assassinated. So 48, they assassinated the premier minister. I mean, they were a big problem and affrontation with the monarchy, with all our Republican regimes, Nasser, Sadat, Mubarak, until now. So, I mean, I don't think all this experience and all this leader very bad, and the Ange, the Muslim Brotherhood, they didn't make any mistakes. So this is the fourth one, that the Muslim Brotherhood never recognize their experience, their mistakes in the history. To conclude and to finish, I think we cannot accept, because now I know now it's impossible to make any reconciliation with the Muslim Brotherhood, but in the future, that's what I am afraid. I think for this reason we put in the constitution the main issue we cannot accept, not only in Egypt, in any other country, religious organization as a political actor. It's not allowed by the constitution, by the law. We cannot accept that. And I think it was a big mistake to integrate the Muslim Brotherhood as a religious actor, as a religious organization in the political sphere. I think it's finished. Yes, for sure, we have to deal with the political party has a Islamic reference. It's more complicated and more sophisticated, but I think the Tunisian experience, despite many problems, but we have civil party, we have women, we have the role of women, we have any important issue. We have also the potential of Egypt that the majority of the Egyptian people cannot accept now any religious organization as a political actor. I think it was a mistake. We start to accept them under Sadat in the 70s, and he pays the price when he accepts the Muslim Brotherhood as a religious organization or as a political actor. I think this is finished, and it will never be allowed again. And when you take from the Muslim Brotherhood their major forces, that's the religious argument and the vague discourse and all this issue, I think the Muslim Brotherhood will be part of our history, le passé, the past, and not the future. And thank you. I would like to thank you, and I stop here. And sure, we can hope we can exchange email to discuss more, and we can send also my my working paper if you didn't receive it. Thank
Brilliant.
you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amma. We only have 25 minutes left, so I'm going to quickly move on to Dr. Hoda Maroof, and hopefully we'll have about quarter of an hour at the end for some more general questions. Dr. Maroof is one of Trends' own researchers, so I'm just going to hand the floor over to her right now.
Peace be upon you. Welcome to all of you. I am going to speak about the parallel state, the tools and mechanism used by the Muslim Brotherhood. But first of all, this is a subject that is surrounded by lots of confusion. We have so many terms that are overlapped. We have the deep state, we have a state within the state, we have a shadow government. We have so many terms that we did not explain well enough, and I hope that this symposium will be an opportunity or a platform for going into more details about the parallel state. The story of the state and the Muslim Brotherhood is old. We have so many generations of Muslim Brotherhood that grew up hating the state and the government. They had that pre-Islamic mindset. The Muslim Brotherhood is an old organization. They have a universal discourse they are not limited to a specific area. They want to dominate all over the world and spread the message to everyone. So the generation of the Muslim Brotherhood, they grew up within the spirit of hatred. And when Hassan al-Banna founded this Muslim Brotherhood in 1928, he was gradual. He started with social change, which was the beginning for organizational changes. He started with some institutional changes, and he followed the path of those who preceded him, those who were reformists and who were calling for reforming and innovating the Islamic society. So he moved on gradually, and in 1930 he changed the compass, and he said, we are now in front of a new shift, and we are going to hold accountable and argue against those who do not care about the Muslim Brotherhood discourse, which calls for Islamization of society. So from the beginning, Hassan al-Banna had his eyes on political change gradually. Therefore, we have so many indicators that confirm the changes that the Muslim Brotherhood went through, from the Sufi movement to social movement to political party with so many demands. And I would like to remind you that they were always very discreet in their actions. Actually, as Dr. Shobaki mentioned, this is a social movement, but they have infiltrated other institutions. So why did they build that military organization inside them? What were they looking for to achieve in the future? And also they were looking forward to building intelligence department. So the movement of Muslim Brotherhood started within society and started infiltrating different organizations such as the military, the police, the justice, and others. And they also infiltrated society through a service department. They were tapping on the gaps that the official entities were not filling, and they started spreading and using different messages, and they infiltrated through education department, through education and health department and charities, and also through different messages and call for people to join them. And I want also to remind you that Muslim Brotherhood, it has a lot of domination and oppression among them, and like Qutb said, he had asked those who believe in him that they should look down on others and they should always consider themselves on the right path, and whatever they do is in the benefit of society. So this way of domination and looking down on others, they were thinking that once they get their hands on the power, they will be able to move on and dominate all over the world. But once they started having the responsibility, we could see that they had a lot of dictatorship compared to other regimes, and they fell in the same trap that they thought or claimed that they would free the world from, whether in the fields of economy and helping the vulnerable categories of society. So we can say that they built structures which are parallel into society, and they infiltrated different departments, and they also believe in the principle of obedience, and you should just believe them, follow them, and not argue with them, and we should always tell them yes, and they have no consideration for others people's opinion. They want to dominate the state, they want to have large powers, and we can compare them to, we can compare the general guide of the Muslim Brotherhood to the president of a presidential regime, and then we have the office of the guidance, and then the consulting office and other departments. So they also have different departments for women and youngster and social services. So Islamization of society, infiltrating society, and this formation of this brotherhood with their military arms, they try to change the equation, they try to shape society in the way they aspire to. So, as we said, they are planning to build a parallel state. They want to enhance the educational system, and they try to infiltrate the official educational system. And they try to be always very close to society, try to help people and provide them with different services. So they want people to believe that the official state is absent, but they are always there for them. They have also infiltrated civil society organizations. We can also find them within trade unions and non-profit organizations, and they have also tried to control the media outlets. They have tried to influence the media and shape the public opinion. And we should also remember that we have now the virtual media, and you cannot control the virtual media, and they are using that into their advantage. And they try to spread popular culture which calls for the good thing for people, and they try also to tap into the culture of the Egyptian society. So this organization, which has this organization of the Muslim Brotherhood, is trying to change society and try to spread all over the world and to achieve the dream of the Muslim Brotherhood of building a state that will dominate and spread its message. And we cannot say that this Muslim Brotherhood is innocent. They look, actually, they try to look just like the official state, and whenever they find the opportunity, they strike very hard, and when they find that there is some defense, they step back, and then they keep their eyes open, and whenever there is an opportunity, they try to seize it, and when they know that they need to show some strength in front of the others, they would do it. So they made some concessions, they infiltrated society, they presented the message of services and help to people in need. And when they issued power, we saw that they failed so much and that they have no experience and they are not qualified for governing a state, and they could not achieve any reform, and they were not good at the political process, and we actually found that they lack confidence, they lack capacity, and they are just looking for exercising the dictatorship, and they try to dominate and to make decisions the way they want. Like Dr. Alexander said, they are looking for empowering themselves, how to control the authority, how to dominate. And they don't want to listen to the others. I would like to conclude and say that we are dealing here with a big institution. It's not limited in a specific country or specific geography, and like Dr. Jassim said, it has managed to infiltrate into different ways, and we are facing this colonial project, if we can use this term, and we need to build a new framework for facing and dealing with this Muslim Brotherhood. I would like to thank all the panelists, and I hope I respected my time. Thank you.
No, not too much time taken at all, but we have about 10 minutes for questions. So perhaps we could just launch straight into the first one. And this is a general question. So whoever wants to go ahead and answer it can just pretty much jump straight in. Has the Brotherhood's decline ended the pursuit and idea of a parallel state, or is it still an ongoing project? Whoever wants to answer can just jump in. Dr. Leiner, you seem to have unmuted yourself.
Of course, there are some rethinkings and restructurations, but there is still the project to have a very hierarchical institution and to replicate structures of the state. So it's not over, I would say, and it's not broken by what happened with Morsi era. So it can continue, and therefore also because it came in two speeches that they said we cannot reconcile with the Brotherhood. I would just make it clear what I think the reconciliation should be with the people who were voting for the Brotherhood. And there were millions, and their needs must be addressed, they must be understood if the Egyptian society will not break apart. Just to make this clear, because I found myself a bit misunderstood on this. But the Brotherhood itself, it's still continuing its project as much as I know.
We didn't hear you.
Yes, we don't hear.
Yeah, it's
We
slightly
don't hear. I didn't hear last phrase.
So I think that the project was not abandoned by the leading members of the Brotherhood. But maybe some of you know it better. You are closer to them. Situation.
I have a question to Dr. Amer. Is possible?
Sure, go ahead.
Yes, I didn't I didn't get exactly the reason why Muslim Brotherhood, PGL in Egypt, when they took the power, they didn't want to legalize the party. I didn't understand really the reason.
Yes, they didn't legalize the organization. The organization is
sorry. The organization.
The party, you know, it's not important.
For which reason? Which reason they didn't want?
For sure, they didn't say clearly that. No, what they said? They said because we are a unique organization. We cannot be similar with a sample association of civil society. We are superior because the organization has political, social, educational, charity rules. So they said clearly what Doctora, she said, الاستعلاء in Arabic. And that's the word, if we can translate it, it could be very useful because it's quoted in Sayyid Qutb, the book of Sayyid Qutb, الاستعلاء الإيماني. الاستعلاء, because we believe we are superior from other people or other organizations. That's, they said, we are not similar. No, we are not like the others organization. For this reason, we refuse. And
would you kindly send me in our written conversation the term you said in Arabic? It's possible.
Okay, with pleasure. Avec plaisir.
Oui, parce que je suis pas sûr de pouvoir le retenir. C'est possible de me l'écrire en lettres latines et arabes. C'est possible.
Avec plaisir.
En fait, ça justifie l'idée de suprémacisme. Alors, en fait, suprémacisme.
Exactly. It's exactement.
It's very important. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for you.
Okay, thank you, guys. And we have another question here, and perhaps Dr. Mohammed could address this. The question is, has the Brotherhood sort of exploited the democracy and general tolerance in the West and the atmosphere of democracy in order to pursue their own goals? You're muted, Dr. Mohammed. If you just click.
Yes, certainly. Muslim Brotherhood, they make benefit of the space of freedom in Europe. For that reason, I believe that they encourage also people for immigration in Europe. So in Europe, they are active, and right now I believe they consider Europe is the most important, maybe more than Middle East or maybe more than other region, since they have their between perhaps its empire, their Islamic or Muslim Brotherhood empire in Europe. And the most important, they are not safe haven here in Europe. They are active in Europe, And also they finance their network all around the world from Europe. So how much Europe is important. And there is one thing we should mention to it, that they know what to do. They know the legislation, they know the law, and they know how to go around the law. For that reason, they are active within the space of the law, but it's abuse of the law. So for that reason, they are very smart mind, and their network is very smart. But I believe that European intelligence lately, they discover and they also ask Muslim Brotherhood or maybe some community to show the profile of the member and the network. So right now, I believe there is a good policy in Europe, mostly in German, toward the Muslim Brotherhood. I expect that maybe it takes some years that European maybe reach a decision to put Muslim Brotherhood on a blacklist.
Right. So you think that because you mentioned the UK earlier, and you think they should be putting them on they should be blacklisting these organizations?
Here in Germany, for example, the new policy of Interior Ministry to take serious measures against the radicalization, whatever they are. For example, lately in April, they took a decision to put Hezbollah on a blacklist, for example. And of course, they also ban a number of mosques, culture center, religious center, and they believe that their security, the national security, German and Europe, that there is a risk, there is a combat. For that reason, right now, there is a challenge, a big challenge for security intelligence service, mostly the domestic in Europe. There is one thing I would like to mention. Before, everybody, they believe that the terror and radicalization is imported from Middle East or from Southeast or from around the world. But right now, Europe, it's local risk of radicalization inside Europe. This is the most important. So the most important is not to counter terror. Right now, I believe we have radicalization. We need how to face radicalization socially. Socially, it's very important, very important. So I believe this is the new challenge for the Europe.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Maruf, it looked like you wanted to cut in there. Did you have any remarks on the question?
حقيقة علينا أن نقول إذا كان السؤال الأول قد طرحته وأنا أحاول الإجابة الآن عليه ما يتعلق بالدولة الموازية. هل ستبقى هذه الفكرة قائمة وهذا المشروع ويصار إلى يعني العمل عليه بالنسبة للأخوان المسلمين أم إنه سيتوقف؟ طبعاً الحقيقة جماعة الإخوان المسلمين هي جماعة تلاحق أهدافها بشراسة وبقوة، وبالرغم أحياناً عندما نأتي لنستذكر الوقائع التي مرت بها هذه الجماعة نلاحظ أنها رغم فترات من الملاحقة تحديداً خلال فترة الرئيس الراحل جمال عبد الناصر وعديد من القيادات قد دخل السجن أكثر من مرة وخرج ودخل وهكذا، ولكننا نجد أن هؤلاء عندما يخرجوا يتابعوا أهداف هذا المشروع ويتحركوا باتجاه تحقيق ما قد رسم لهم وأهدافهم التي تبنوها. أنا أعتقد من وجهة نظري المتواضعة أنهم ما دام لهم وجود على الأرض فإنهم سوف يبقون يلاحقون هذه الأهداف. وكما أشار الدكتور الشبكي أنه يجب أن يصار إلى رفض الإسلاموية، رفض تسييس الإسلام بهذه الطريقة التي تقدمها هذه الأحزاب بطبعتها السنية والشيعية على حد سواء. ونحن هنا نتحدث عن الإخوان المسلمين، أي أن لا يصار إلى أن يدخل حزباً يتبنى أفكاراً دينية إسلامية أو أياً كانت في ظل المعطيات والظروف التي تعيشها المنطقة، وخصوصاً نحن منطقة عانت كثيراً من الإرهاب ومن تحديات الإرهاب وما بعد الإرهاب من سياسات وتبعات اجتماعية واقتصادية وثقافية وأخلاقية وإنسانية. نعم.
Okay, thank you very much. Looks like we just have 1 minute left, so I'm going to rush through the sort of closing remarks here. I want to thank all of the speakers so much for coming along and sharing your views. It's been a really valuable conversation. I also want to thank Trends for putting on the symposium, and there's been a few minor technical errors, but they resolved them really quickly, so well done to those guys. I also would be remiss not to mention that they have another event next week at the exact same time, so 7 p.m. UAE time. And this discussion will be on the US presidential elections coming up, of course, looking at the possible transformations of the US policy towards the Middle East. So tune in for that. I'm sure it'll be an excellent discussion. Thank you again to everyone tuning in.